Scott has built 7 seven-figure businesses, one that's on track to do well over 8 figures.
Why am I here on planet Earth? And that's some dangerous thinking. Why am I here on planet Earth? That can really throw you for a loop.
Yeah.
But that thinking starts creating the why. More than I just need to have more freedom or I just need to have more money, which is why everyone's like, hey, let's have impact. I'm all cool for impact. Most entrepreneurs are just lying to themselves and everyone around them.
I totally agree.
And I'm all for impact, but if you replace anyone that says, I want to have lots of impact, you just replace that with I want to have lots of money, and now we're all at least honest.
Yeah.
So once you get a person to a point of, you know what, I have enough money for me, I have enough money for my kids, I have enough money for my family, and I have enough money for even a generation, now you start kind of thinking into the abundance thinking. And the abundance thinking is when the lateral thinking starts happening. And you now actually kind of dive into, why am I actually here? And that is probably both the biggest point where people build the biggest businesses because of that, and also depression. I think it can go either way, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to go to depression in order to go around the other way. But right now, for me, our goal is to be able to solve every single problem that entrepreneurs have. So everything from meal prep, everything from helping people grow their businesses, everything to helping influencers with what we're doing, being able to actually monetize their influence so they can get to this level of abundance. And so today it's in very ways of helping people scale 7-figure businesses, because if you don't have a 7-figure business, I don't believe you have a business.
Right.
It takes a 7-figure business to be able to distribute.
To start a business.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. You do have to have a, yeah, exactly. And so, people think that, 7-figure business owners going around like balling. They're not, right?
They got high-paying jobs.
They have a nice paying job, right? And so I want to help people get past having a nice paying job so that they can actually get to a place of wealth. So I think that's it's going to look like a lot of different things, which is great because I'm a creator and I love creating new things. I love solving problems. And so for me, my purpose right now is really being able to help entrepreneurs evolve to that next level.
That's awesome. There's something special about your group too that actually, I see it in Slack, right, that actually creates that shift. And I think it's something important to note that you said, once you pass that 4th level into the 5th, that's when you really, and I'm sure that a lot of the decisions, going back to what you're saying, that you're doing in your business are based off you hitting that point, right? Because if you were at point 4, you would be more like, well, how much money can we make? How much money can we make here and there? And I think it's okay for people watching, for influencers, to understand where they are, right? Because I'm with you. I kind of, to a degree, can't stand anymore the impact thing because it's so, like, I'm a heart-centered entrepreneur. Like, you think I'm an asshole? Like, I'm not an asshole, but I just don't run around saying I'm a heart-centered entrepreneur.
Well, you don't
like
lie.
We're all,
you're honest.
Yeah, like, when we first met, I was like, dude, I don't want to impact the world. Everyone around me, I got like 20 employees, I want to change their life. That's my big thing. And if that's not like, that's not heart-centered enough, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
No, I really, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
It really, from Family Guy, it really grinds my gears. And it really grinds my gears when people are going on the impact thing.
Yeah.
And when you really think about it, money is just money is just an information system, right? So how much money you have just goes to show how much the world owes to you, right? And how much money, and that's it, right? And so based upon that, or you owe the world, depending on which way you go about it.
Yeah.
And so I think people get it really, 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 really screwed up because, of course, we're taught about money in such fascinating ways, and we put it on a pedestal. And when we put it on a pedestal, we kind of lose ourselves. And it's a hard thing to snap out of.
It takes a lot to start finding that money isn't what you actually wanted. Money should satisfy your needs.
Yeah.
When your needs are satisfied and more, so you're safe and you have that sense of, because every entrepreneur, every influencer, every person has the initial state of what if I lose it, what if, right? And when you kind of pass that wall, the what if goes away because at worst case, like,
I think it's like you have 2 options. You either go and become a monk so you don't actually think about these anxieties, or you make a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
And it's easier to make a shit ton of money, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Based upon what at least I see. And one of my team members has been a monk for 10 years. So, I can see that it was easier to make money than
I couldn't be a monk for 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be hard.
It would be hard. It would be difficult. And so, a lot of people, always say to me, well, can you learn abundance? Can you get the mindset of abundance without being abundant? I'm like, I mean, you can, but it doesn't do you any good.
Yeah.
You're still going to go to the ATM and there's no money in the bank, so you can have an abundant mindset all day long, but it has to happen in this realm,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a great point on why you work with the, like, you have your avatar very nailed in, because you have to start with, like, all right, I'm making some money, and I'm passing here. I either want more, and then once they have more, they go, all right, well, what are we doing this for? What should I do? And that's kind of the point where you could go in the reverse and go, what is this all for? What am I doing? Someone else can have it. You kind of fall into the depressions and things like that. Why do you think that is with people?
Why do they fall into the depression?
When things are great. I know more.
I mean, I've been there, so I understand it.
Yeah.
I think there's an element of, I think a lot of entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs because of self-love. They have fundamentally they have a self-love problem, right? Or an opportunity for massive growth. They don't feel worthy. I didn't feel worthy. I remember building all this influence, and my influence was in the business realm. So, I influential to 250,000 entrepreneurs. And one of my biggest things was, oh my God, now I have a microphone and I don't know even what to say.
Yeah.
Like, how am I? I'm not any better than these people, right? And so there's that, and I think there's a level of responsibility of money, of wealth, of influence. I think there's a level of responsibility that's there. So I think that's a piece. And I know for me, I've made $30 million in my lifetime, and most of it until this year has been made because I was just trying to love myself. I said, well, if I make all this money and if I do all these things and I am all this great, then of course I must be able to love myself because I must be lovable. And so I think there's probably just as much personal development there as there is anything to do with business. And I think most entrepreneurs are fundamentally the most maybe messed up of society, to be completely honest with you.
Definitely roller coasters.
I think we're roller coasters. We are nuts. We are
bipolar to a degree.
You kind of got to be like, I love Elon Musk's quote. He said, entrepreneurship is like eating glass and staring into the abyss at the same time. And it's the perfect quote because it really truly is that. And having the anxiety, being able to deal with the level of anxiety, of the level of lack of freedom, dealing with the need to have significance, dealing with an overinflated ego because there's no other way you'd be able to be a business owner. Like, if you don't have a big ego, you're a bad entrepreneur because there's literally no way you can look in the mirror and be like, yeah, I got this. Meanwhile, everything's falling apart. When I was $1 million in debt, I had to have a massive ego. I had to be in reality distortion field, as Steve Jobs was famous for, because I literally was there's no logic to being $1 million in debt and thinking that you can still do it.
Yeah.
There's no real thinking there for that. Yeah. So I think you can fall into a lot of depression because you're not actually hitting the root of the problem. You get the money, and then you realize that you still feel empty. And that emptiness typically is because of worthiness, self-acceptance, self-trust, self-love, those different types of things. So that's why I'm a huge believer of the personal development side and therapy and all these different types of things, because that's what at least helped me realize, you know what? There's no amount of money that's going to make me happy. It's inward, not outward.
100%. Yeah, I think a lot of people chase the wrong dragon, right? They start off and it's always money, and then it's always reaching more and more and more, but no time does anyone ever stop. And one of the big things I think is no one ever is grateful. Like, you get there and then you're like, well, what do I do? Like, this sucks. What's next? You never stop and go, I'm grateful I'm even here. I always try to practice that with them. Like, we should be grateful we're here. And sure, we want to go to another place, but let's stop and remind ourselves when we weren't here. And always that always helps a ton. What are some of the things this year as you've grown? You've grown a big business this year, the biggest that you've ever grown, and I think you've grown as a human exponentially. What are some of the things you've learned this year that are now just engraved into your everyday?
That's a good one. I'm actually writing, been sitting on writing what I've learned in the past 12 months. I think probably one of the biggest elements this year is realizing that if there's an outward problem, if there's an outward challenge, it's actually completely inward. And there's something that I'm not thinking about from an inward perspective. Second, leverage is everything. And that, at a certain point, hustle doesn't, hustle's good to get you to, $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year. Past that, you can't hustle. Three, what you do today is going to be totally different than what you do a week from now. It's a really weird feeling because I'm no longer the CEO of my company, which is a trip. That's a trip. That really is just a completely still doesn't resonate in my mind, right?
Yeah.
And he's amazing. And so, in a steady state of change, you don't really have time to be able to actually understand what's going on. And so you're kind of in this flow. And what I've realized is that you just have to really let go of all belief systems and all even habits. And you just have to have a very openness around absolutely everything and waking up every day and being like, you know what, I'm going to do whatever is needed today for me, and then I'm going to do what's ever needed for my business, not the other way around. And one of the biggest pieces for me is I no longer force myself to do anything anymore. If it's not flowing, then I'm not going to force myself to do that because there's a reason there's resistance. And that might sound a little Dennis woo-woo-ish, but I really, I've betrayed myself for a long time. I betrayed my health. I betrayed, all these different elements. And for me, it's me first, and then let's go out. Because what I realize is that if I if I pour from an empty bucket, there's nothing there to pour.
Right.
But if I take care of myself first, I can actually go and, be the person that I need to be in order to grow this business. Because it is scary. I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm doing, I'm responsible for hundreds of entrepreneurs' businesses that grow. That is, a little crazy.
And you even have 46 employees now, so that's
that is a lot of, it's a lot of, something I've dealt with the most this year. And what I've learned is this entrepreneurship thing is a lot of responsibility, but there's an element of, if I'm not going to do it, if you don't do it, who's going to do it? And there's a responsibility to the world in a way. And there's also something I realized is I tried blowing up my business because I didn't want responsibility. Mm-hmm. Look where I'm to now. I tried to go and do the travel thing. I tried everything else. What I realized is maybe, I don't know if this is true or not, maybe there's a destined path of where we are actually supposed to end up. It doesn't matter how much we try to get off of it.
You're going to be there.
We're just going to come back around. So I've just let go and I said, you know what? The responsibility is the responsibility. I'm here to do great things just like you are, just as anyone else that's watching this. And, let's make the most of it, have fun, and yeah, just rock and roll.
That's awesome, man. So before we wind up, I kind of want to ask everybody that's on the show, where do you think the state of influencer, the influencer industry is now? And what is something that people that are coming up, either beginning or kind of in the mid stages, can do to really use this to their advantage right now in this moment?
I think one of the biggest pieces is that you are your own, owner. Okay, so you own the audience. Right? You've been able to grow an audience. If you're able to grow an audience, I'm a huge believer of being able to own a customer. So if you've been able to bring them to a point of actually them viewing what you put out there, then you can get them to a point of them giving you their money in exchange for a product or service or consulting or whatever it is that you're actually an expert on. And I think right now that is the time to be able to leverage the fact that you are an expert in what you are in. You are an influencer, to own that influence and be able to actually monetize it, because at the end of the day, how many likes you get on a picture, how many likes you get, how many views you get on a video, that's cool, but you can't bring that to the bank. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the time right now for anybody to be able to monetize, because the faster you monetize, the faster you can grow your audience. I'm no online sensation outside of the fact that I've spent a couple $1 million on paid advertising to put my message out to people, and they realize, wow, you know what, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. But there's no viral video that I had, or there's no algorithm that I used to get there.
Slow and steady.
It was just slow and steady, and having a product that I could actually then generate revenue and profit from and put it back in.
Thank you so much for being on, Scott. Really appreciate it. And we will see you guys on the next episode of Influence Effect.